What's going on, people? Hope you're well. Big up, big up, big up. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the channel. I thought I would have a chat tonight with my good friend, Goonie. What are you telling me, mate?
I'm all good, bruv. Just doing up the Great British Bake Off. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, it's always good to be on your channel. Obviously, transfer season. There's always news every single day of the week. You know, sometimes it's silly season, sometimes it's actual truth. So, I guess that's what we're here to discuss about our teams, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, 100, man. And obviously, you're Chelsea and I'm Arsenal, and two of the busier clubs, or most spoken about clubs, I would suggest, actually, in the last few weeks for right and wrong reasons, for frustrating reasons.
Fact.
Bro, let's start with Chelsea, man. Big up the chat, by the way. Make
Hold
sure
on,
you
hold
do
on.
us a
Before we
favour.
start with Chelsea, I've got to give a special shout out. My brother Lee Gunner in the building. Hey, big up yourself all day, every
Yeah,
day.
man.
Love to Lee Gunner, you get me? But go on, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my bro.
Nah, you're right. You're right. And I didn't even see Lee had snuck in the chat. So big up, Lee. Hope you're well, bruv. And well played to you, man. Listen, Chelsea for me at the moment, all I keep hearing about is fans fighting with each other about whether Todd Bowley's right for them, whether they should have gutted out their side or not, whether Mason Mount was proper Chelsea and now he's not proper Chelsea because he's proper Mank. It's bizarre for me, man. Like, it's strange time to be a Chelsea fan, I would suggest. And I don't know, before we go into all of the madness, like, are you positive when it comes to being a Chelsea fan right now? Are you up in the air with it, Goonie? Because there's so many I speak to that are like arguing with each other, saying that, you know, Chelsea aren't in a good place. Chelsea are in a good way. Chelsea are going to spend money. It don't matter if Chelsea spend money. It's all up in the air. I'm like, wow, I can't even. It's exhausting for me, and I'm a Gooner. So how do you feel?
Well, it's for us Chelsea fans, obviously, we're still relatively in unfamiliar territory. And what I mean by that is we haven't had enough of a sample size with this ownership to really like make a decision on that. So I'm very much in limbo to answer your question. I'm very much in limbo. So I don't know what to expect. What I do know is, and what everyone knows, is that there is money to be spent regardless of Champions League football or not. Chelsea can spend, but it's how we're looking to spend it. Because listen, as much as I've agreed with a lot of like 90% of the players that have been released from the club or been sold from the club, I agree with that. But my concern is what are we replacing these players with? Because remember, some of these guys have won big trophies, Champions Leagues, Club World Cups, and so on and so forth. And their experience was a massive part in that. Do you know what I mean? In that squad, in winning things. And the recruitment that we're looking at right now, everything seems to be below 25 years old. And it concerns me. Now, listen, for me, age don't mean nothing. It doesn't mean anything to me. Listen, if you're good enough, you're old enough. That's my thing. But the problem is with those types of players, they're very few and far in between. Do you know what I mean? They're very few and far in between. So to build up a squad of 11 players, well, first team 11 of 11 young players like that to be winning stuff, it's a massive, massive ask. It doesn't really happen. Do you know what I mean? So that's really where my concern is. But the silver lining in this cloud is the fact that we're still in the transfer window. There's still some time to go in this transfer window. So it is salvageable. Do you know what I mean? So it's really seeing how we're going to recruit and replace what's gone out. So that's where I stand at the minute.
Yeah, and I think it's sensible, man, because what you've done is literally clear out and got all of your side pretty much. Like players that don't belong, you've just said goodbye. And I do think that there's some good with that because obviously you don't want dead wood hanging about. At the same time, how many incomings are we going to be expecting at Chelsea, bro? Because there's literally Enzo left in your midfield, and I think that's about it, other than Conor Gallagher, who I believe is available as well if somebody wants him that much. So it's like, are we going to see like 4 midfielders, a centre forward? We're going to see like 7 or 8 players at least coming in, bro.
I mean, in terms of midfielders, we've lost several. I mean, when we go through the names, N'Golo Kante, Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I feel like I'm even forgetting names here, bruv. Do you know what I mean?
Has gone back.
Yeah, Zakaria has gone back. Bakayoko's been released, finally. Do you know what I mean? He's gone. So there is a lot to replace. So I expect several midfielders. But then at the same time, Dan, we also have to remember, Chelsea last season had the biggest squad in the Prem, 31 players. So at the same time, some of those players may not be replaced. But what I will say is, in terms of position, and some people might be like, Goonie, are you sure? But for me right now, as it stands, that midfield is my priority even before a striker,
Yeah.
because we've got absolutely nothing there. We've got nothing there except unknown elements, bro. And what I mean by that is, I don't know how Caicedo is going to play in the Prem. I don't know how Andre Santos is going to play in the Prem. I don't know how these guys are going to come in and
Mm.
perform, if they're even going to be staying at the club. So that's why this midfield, it has to be sorted first. This Caicedo deal needs to get done ASAP so we can move on to other deals then.
Listen, it's mad, and big up Taron in super chat, man. Says I'm an Arsenal fan, but Goonie brother is such a genuine dude. Yes, facts. Big up Dan. Thank you for that, Taron, and cheers for the super chat, bro. Appreciate that. Listen, this Chelsea thing is a madness. I don't know that I would trust this nutty Todd dude, man. I can't even lie to you. The guy's just looks like he's just having a bit of fun with some money and just like just splashing. Oh, let's just gut these people. Anyone know if this guy's any good? Yeah, we'll bring him in. Oh, people are talking about Vlahovic. If we seen him play, don't matter. Let's just get him in. I just think it's going to be a bit like that. And that would worry me a bit if I was a Chelsea fan. What wouldn't worry me is the fact that you're going to have a side that ain't good enough to compete. Because trust me, you will do, because you're just going to buy yourself back there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a plan as such, that some of these Chelsea fans I speak to, like Matisse and some of the others, are really genuinely believe that there's a plan of getting young players in. I understand that, and I understand that there is a clear understanding of the type of player that Chelsea have now changed to look for. They used to be a win now club. Roman would get them what they wanted so they can get into a title race, and now Todd Bowley looks to be getting some younger players in. But there still needs to be a bit more of an understanding of a plan for me to see it before I start to get excited. You've got the guy in that can coach. Whether he can win you something is yet to be decided, because a lot of people laugh at me when I say this. I don't think Poch is this Pep Klopp guy. I just don't see that personally. But I do think that he's a good coach. So we're going to have to see what happens with that. But like, we're talking about the midfield at the moment, right? Let's stick on that. You've lost Jorginho to us, as you mentioned. Kovacic has gone to City. Kante's gone to Saudi Arabia. You've gone Mason Mount.
Loftus-Cheek's gone to AC. Mason Mount has gone to Manchester United. That's 5.
So that's 5 players. Zacharia's gone back. That's 6. So you're talking now that you've got Enzo and Conor Gallagher. Am I missing anybody else? Because that's all I can name. So you need like 4 midfielders.
Exactly.
Am I right?
You're bang on. You're bang on. 100%.
And Havertz obviously has come to us.
But
that's another one. It's
Havertz for us, he only played the number 8 role a handful of times. And
cool.
That was under Lampard's first stint at Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? So for him, I count him more as an attacker. But yeah, we need several midfielders. And our midfield, anyway, has needed a revamp for the longest, because I haven't been happy with 90% of that midfield. I'll be honest with you. The only 2 midfielders that I would have kept at the beginning of this window, Enzo, and if I was guaranteed a fit N'Golo Kante, I would have kept him. The rest, I wouldn't mind seeing leave completely. That's how I felt. So on that side of things, I'm happy that that's happened. But once again, it's about recruiting the right players, because look, we're linked with Caicedo very strongly. We're trying to negotiate that deal. That's also something that I'm starting to get a little worried about myself. There's also the situation with Romeo Lavia. I like him very much, but Liverpool seem to be wanting to sign this guy sooner rather than later, because they're very much aware of our interest. But they're taking advantage of the fact that we're negotiating so long with Caicedo. Do you know what I mean? And then there's also other profiles to look at, because those are 2 number 6s that I mentioned. We also need a creative midfielder, and we need another number 8, because we can't just have Enzo doing that role on his own. What happens when he gets injured? Who's going to be the next player to step up? Do you know what I mean? So for me, I would love for us to be looking at a Manu Kone over at Gladbach. I know Christopher Vivel, who's one of our recruiters, is very much a huge fan of him, and in fact did push for him to come to Chelsea Football Club, but that didn't materialize. So I don't know what's happened since then. Hopefully he's still a target, but I would love somebody like that. And then here's another player that I was saying to my good mate Darko. I was telling him like a month ago, this boy, right? If you're looking at youth profile, this kid, Güler, right? The Turkish one that's now going to Real Madrid. I said, if there's an exception to the rule where you take a young talent and you bring them straight into the first team, he's one of them. I wanted him at Chelsea. Because from the pure perspective that our number 10 is Christopher Nkunku. Do you know what I mean? No, that's who he's supposed to be. But he's gonna be playing that second striker role. That's where his best position is, or he might be used in the wings, depending. I don't know what Pochettino is gonna do. So there is space for an actual pure number 10 position, and I thought he would have been a good option. There's also that Kudus from he's in the Eredivisie somewhere.
Kudus, yeah, the Ghana midfielder.
Love him.
He looks quality in the World Cup. He looked quality. I thought.
I love him. That's talent. So for me, my window would be this. After those players leaving, right? And remember, these are players that are realistic on the market.
Yeah, cool.
They also, although all necessarily my first choice, maybe not, but they fit the profiles that I feel we need. So obviously, Caicedo would have been a no-brainer. So that's one. Lavia would have been another one. That's two. Manu Kone to play that number 8. That's 3. This guy, I like him. And I feel we're missing a trick on not going in for him. Amrabat.
Yeah. United pounds.
For the fact that he's going for 25 million.
Yeah, that's a steal.
Is ridiculous at the fact we're not going for him. But why are Chelsea not going for him? Age profile. Do you know what I mean? So those are a few players that I definitely would have gone for. And I would have definitely gone for another 10 that would have been behind Christopher Nkunku, 100% in terms of pecking order, because obviously Nkunku, with the talent he got, he merits to be a first team player. His name should be one of the first names on the team sheet. So somebody off the bench from him, I would love. If someone like a Kudus is willing to do that, I would sign him. You know, Maddison would have been one of my options, but obviously Tottenham have done well to go and get him. A player of that profile who can open things up a little bit in the final third and bring in the 3 attackers in front of them. That's what I would have loved to see.
Yeah, and you know what? Those names coming in at Chelsea, the expectation needs to start to lift with the fan base if you're looking at those kind of names. Because for me, you're looking at massive upgrades on your midfield right there. And I wanted to stick to one player we're going to talk about now, Moises Caicedo. What the hell is going on with this guy? Like, why has he not left Brighton yet? Like, this for me was an obvious choice. You know, Alexis McAllister went really early. That was because of the release clause that Liverpool had managed to get sorted, right? But Moises Caicedo was like Arsenal bound at one point in January. For whatever reason, we have decided at the moment, and it's not 100% set in stone, that he's not the guy that we're going for. But it looks like Chelsea are the ones that are going to come in for him. Why do you think this has been such a hard deal to get done? Because, or can you say it is because no one's even gone for him, it seems, at the moment? Like, why? Has something already been agreed for you? Like, is something already in place here? That's why no one's touching him.
I'll start as to why Chelsea are the only team that are pursuing Caicedo. Caicedo's camp has made it very clear to other teams, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, all of the top teams that were looking at him, that Chelsea is the option that he wants to go to. Why that is N'Golo Kante is this guy's idol. He wants to go in there and do a similar job to what N'Golo's done. Now, obviously, that is big talk, and you're filling in big shoes when you're talking N'Golo Kante. But I wouldn't mind a player of that quality giving it a shot. The second thing is, now in terms of what's prolonged this transfer and what may actually jeopardize this transfer, is 2 things. One, Chelsea are dragging on the negotiations because you know how it goes. If a team decides on a price, it's either you pay it or you don't. Chelsea need to hurry up and make that decision. The second thing is your transfer of Declan Rice has affected the price tag of Moises Caicedo. And Brighton was smart to hold off and buy time until that deal was done. Why? So they can have something to point to. So they can say, right, you want our player. We did speak about 80 million at first. Cool. But Declan Rice has just gone for 105 million to Arsenal. And he's improving them. If we sell Caicedo to you, he's going to improve you. Bearing in mind, you guys finished below us in the Prem. So what incentive do we have of selling him to you? Because we finished above you this year and we want to finish above you again next year and so on and so forth. These are things that are going to be included in the negotiations. Unfortunately, it's the timing of your transfer that's kind of knocked on into our one because now the price negotiation has got to start from scratch because 80 million pound is no longer the price tag. They want closer to 100M. I think 100M is actually the magic number. So whether Chelsea are going to rise up to that number remains to be seen because we haven't really heard much on the club side to say that they're willing to meet the price tag. So this is where I'm concerned, because so far this season, from what I'm hearing, Chelsea are not looking to overspend on players like we did in previous windows. So case in point, one of the things they were worried about in terms of buying a replacement goalkeeper was putting out a massive outlay on a goalkeeper because, one, of what's happened to Kepa, and two, they're going with the model of they want to stop overpaying for players now after the Enzo Fernandez situation, and even Raheem Sterling and so on and so forth. You can argue that a bit more money than necessary was overpaid in these situations. They're trying to avoid that. So this is where I'm in a bit of a grey area. I don't know how Chelsea are going to behave. Personally, I think they should deal with this situation on a case-by-case scenario. Some players you're just going to have to pay over the odds for because they've either got the quality already or the potential to have that quality is going to be there. So you're going to have to take the risk. And I believe Caicedo is one of those that you need to take the risk on. One, for his age and the experience he's got in the Premier League, you're not going to find that in many places. And that is priceless. You can see the quality in the player. He's 21 years old and he's only going to get better. He's performing at a level where the top clubs that are competing at all fronts are looking to sign this player, would have him in the team. So based on the fact as well that we desperately need this profile, we've not had this profile since Nemanja Matic in the Chelsea team. To me, if I'm in that position, I'm paying whatever they're asking for. I'm paying for that 100 million. If I have to pay 100 million for him, I'm doing it. So this is where we're at with Chelsea.
I'm with you on the Caicedo thing, man. You're going to have to pay the money if you want him. Brighton are going to do a little bit like West Ham did, really, and just try and get as much as they can for this guy. But he's worth it, man. The guy is so good, man. I've been so impressed with him for a couple of seasons now. And I don't really believe, I don't know if you believe this or not, but Caicedo for me comes in and plays the role that everybody at the moment is expecting Enzo to be playing. I don't see Enzo Fernandez as this holding midfield guy that sits there and anchors the league. I don't see that. A lot of people do. I don't get that from me, Goonie. That doesn't make sense.
Because look, you've got to look at the clubs that he was at previously. At River Plate, he had a man next to him that was the destroyer. But at Benfica, he had what's that? Fabio Luis, or whatever his name is, the black hue. Florentino Luis, that's his name.
Yeah.
That was his partner next to him. Pure number 6, destroyer, done the job very well. Allowed Enzo to go forward and not have to worry so much about dropping back. Do you know what I mean? I mean, because some people they see because Enzo has it in his locker to dictate play from anywhere on the pitch. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should be utilized there. Personally, I'd prefer to play a player to his strengths. It only makes sense because you're going to get the best out of him. You know what I mean? You're not getting the best out of Enzo from DM. You're getting the best out of him from, that box-to-box role and those slightly more advanced roles.
Yeah, I believe so.
Enzo. That's where you want him. So you want somebody next to him who's going to be occupying those positions behind him.
Yeah, 100%, man. And listen, I'm going to bring this one up. Says Goonie, with all due respect, I doubt that Caicedo would pass up Arsenal United if they offer a better wage than Chelsea. Why do you think that Chelsea have still got a chance of getting this guy? And I'm not saying that Arsenal United are in for him, but if they do come in for him, do you start to worry then if Arsenal United are an option?
Not necessarily, because outside of the connection that he has with the club and obviously Kante playing for there, those are very superficial reasons when you look at things, really, bigger picture. Arsenal, look at the squad. Amazing squad, but look who's in front of him. Currently, as it stands, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey. Can you hand on heart say that he's better than both of those players?
That's a great point. Great point.
Now, when you go to Manchester United, Casemiro, can you put your hand on your heart and say that he's better than Casemiro? Does Casemiro have a bad injury record? He doesn't. What he does have is kind of an off-key disciplinary record, but injuries, he's not terrible. But at Chelsea, when he's looking at this team, okay, this is the one season where they kind of dropped off. When you look at the previous seasons before, they've always been in Champions League football. They've won it twice. Do you know what I mean? So we can get into the top 4 and I can be a mainstay in the team. There's nobody of my profile in this squad. I can play week in, week out.
I agree. I agree with that.
And also the money's there to pay him. He's going to get paid nice at Chelsea.
And I agree, the last bit, we're going to see whether Caicedo cares about Champions League football or not this season, because it's always been, hasn't it? Arsenal got Champions League football. But I've always said, I don't really care so much about that because we've always had the pull. We signed Thomas Partey, Aubameyang, Gabriel. You can name all these man that we've signed without Champions League football, with either Europa League or we come eighth from that season. We signed the Erdegaards of this world, etc. Right? So I don't think it's ever really mattered. But then when you ask Arsenal fans the same question, they'll say, "Why does Caicedo want to come to Chelsea without Champions League football?" And it's like, well, have you not been listening for the last couple of seasons? This is what I've been telling you. It isn't a be all and end all for players anymore. It used to be, but it's
And
not
for,
anymore.
and for some clubs, you have to look at it from a sensible perspective. And what I mean by that is you've got to look at laws of averages and the stature of a club. Do you know what I mean? Just because a club is not in the Champions League for one season doesn't mean they're never going to be in it again. Especially when they're one of the top 4, top 5 teams consistently over the past decade, past 2 decades. Chances are they're going to get back in it. This is a freak season for Chelsea. Whether people believe it or not, this isn't something that happens on a regular basis at Chelsea.
No, facts.
You see what I'm saying? More time than none, we finish top 4 and we compete and win trophies. So that's still fresh in the memory of a lot of players, and Chelsea still have that reputation. And the same rule applies to Manchester City. Do you think if they dropped out of the Champions League, that top quality players are not going to want to still join them? Makes no sense. Do you know what I mean? Manchester United, these guys signed Paul Pogba and all these guys, no Champions League football. Like you said, you signed Thomas Partey and these guys, no Champions League football. We signed N'Golo Kante when we finished 10th. We have no European football.
That's a great shout, man.
So
just won the league.
This is what I mean. The stature of your club and also the ambition. If you've got the finance and you've got the football brains to match the ambition several years down the line, and you can present that to your target effectively, why are they not going to join your club?
Bro, it's great what you're saying because what we're kind of agreeing on is football has kind of changed. Like years ago, it was go to the Champions League side. Oh, look, they've got Champions League football. They can sign these world-class players. For me, if there's a player that's going to Chelsea right now, a lot of the neutral fans will go, "What the hell is he doing? Why is he going there? They're out of the Champions League. They ain't that club. They come 12th, blah, blah, blah." Are we really expecting Chelsea to come 12th again next year? Like, let's be real.
No.
Like, we're not. Let's take a couple of questions because there's a couple of Chelsea-related questions here. I'm going to take this one first because I think it's an important one. Spoke to Matisse on his channel about this quite a lot. Chelsea strategy. I kind of touched on it a little while ago, talking about Todd Boehly and him just looking a little bit crazy and a bit of a madman, which I still stand by the fact that he is. Anyone who's spending like 900 million, it's going to be in the next like couple of windows, ever it's going to be as a madman. But strategy-wise, do you see one at Chelsea? Do you think you've got a plan, a strategy?
Well, I can only go by the information that we've been given.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? It's one thing going with opinion and one thing going with something that's actually out there. So what's been reported out there with Chelsea at the minute is that Todd Boehly has actually rescinded all of his duties in terms of having anything in terms of football. He's got nothing to do with the football. He's now left it with the recruitment team. So apparently what we're looking at is a strategy of a recruitment team altogether. Now, what I can tell you the strategy is, aside from we're looking to buy young players and develop them, I have no idea after that. Why? Because it remains to be seen. Until the window's done and we've got our targets in, and remember, we're still very early days in this squad rebuild. This is our first summer where we're starting to sign targets that we're bringing into this vision that we're trying to implement. So it will take several other windows to do. So right now, it's very difficult for anybody to say because we've not seen it done. This is a new regime. If this was a Roman Abramovich regime, maybe because of the previous experience, the 2 decades that we've had with him, I'd be able to give you more of an accurate guess. But with these guys, I don't know. I really don't know what's going on. So that's my honest answer, unfortunately.
No, it's not, unfortunately. It is very honest because I feel like it's new and we need to see more, to be fair, bro. Let's come to this one which says, Goonie, what are your expectations next season for Chelsea? This is an interesting one because I was going to ask you this, mate, because there's a lot of kind of up in the air stuff at the moment. But if we're just looking at the players that we expect Chelsea to be getting, if we're talking about another spend with Pochettino without European football, I think your minimum expectation has got to be Champions League football. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. And that would be that is my minimum expectation, regardless of how the window goes. Because it's for those reasons that you said. We're going to only be playing domestic cup tournaments. We're going to be playing in the Premier League. while other teams around us are going to be playing European football. They're going to have a busier schedule than what we have. And also that gives our manager a lot more time to implement his football with the players. It's a lot easier to do that when you're not traveling to Italy, to France, to Spain, to here, to there, to everywhere, every week. Do you know what I mean? So there are pluses to this in terms of an end of the season finish. So I'm expecting a top 4. But once again, I've got to bring this back to the transfer window. Because if we speak about the Chelsea team that is currently standing right now, as of today, the 10th of July, yeah, this team is nowhere near good enough to even get to the Conference League, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
This is the thing. If we're talking reality and what's going on now, this is my concern. We're not even looking to break into Europa League positions with what we've got now because we've been significantly weakened. But if we address it correctly during this transfer window, then who's to say we could finish top 4 comfortably? You never know.
Listen, I think Caicedo is the one big name that I'd go, wow. I like Lavia a lot, and I like some of the other names you've mentioned. But Creeper Fam has said in here, if Chelsea do miss out on Caicedo, who do you think they'll turn to? Do you think there's another name as big as that Chelsea will be linked with, or do you think it will go to like the Lavias, etc.?
There has to be. I mean, whether it's going to be a box office name like Caicedo remains to be seen. I don't know. One thing I will say though, a lot of rumors about Tchouaméni floating around. Please, people, he ain't leaving Real Madrid. He's staying there, guarantee it. But if he was available, no brainer, I'd go for him. But outside of Caicedo, I could see us looking at definitely Lavia if he's still available. You never know with Chelsea; they could look at other youth prospects. You never know. Gonna Duaf over at Salzburg could be somebody that they're looking at. Or it could be somebody more established. We might just go in for a Palhinha or somebody like that. You never know. Never know with Chelsea. But what remains clear is that number 6 position not only needs to be addressed with one player, but at least 2. We need 2 number 6s in this team. A starter and somebody who's going to be rotating with the first choice number 6. 100%.
Yeah, I think that's fair, man. I've got a question I'm going to come to afterwards from Tony, which is a really good one. But I want to talk about the other position, in my opinion, that Chelsea are massively lacking, which is, of course, up top. Now, there's rumours today that Vlahovic is going to be allowed to leave or they're going to listen to offers for him. Where do you stand on this signing? Because I'm going to put it out there to say that I think if he comes to the Premier League, I think he'll do well. I think he's got that profile that is that all-round type striker that can do a little bit of everything. I think he could be a nuisance. And I wanted to get your opinions on Vlahovic, the player, first of all, bro.
Now, Vlahovic, the player, there's 2 different versions. There's the Vlahovic who was used correctly at Fiorentina. And there's the Vlahovic that we're seeing at Juve, who's not doing terribly, contrary to what people are saying. Has got a few injuries that's stopping him from, gathering some momentum here and there. But there's definitely a player there. I rate him. If he's used correctly, that guy could be an absolutely devastating striker. 100%. I'm not going to hide that. So for me, that's where I stand on the player. In terms of him coming to Chelsea, I had my reservations at first, but then when I sat down and I remembered that Fiorentina Vlahovic, I know that player is still there purely because of just how technical he is. When you've got a technical ability like that, there's not many things that you can't do. Do you know what I mean? But you look at the profiles and look at how Vlahovic was used at Fiorentina. There's some similarities with a striker that Pochettino's worked with before. He drops deep, links up play, very good aerially, great finisher. And on top of that, he takes set pieces. He's involved in the all-round play. Who else do you know that's like that?
Facts, man.
Harry Kane. So now, if there's a mold of striker that you're looking at to fit Pochettino, Vlahovic right there is your prototype. And the thing is you don't necessarily need to put in so much work into the guy, because in terms of asking him to do his job, tell me what he's weak at. Striking the ball, he strikes it clean, beautiful technique. He hits free kicks as well, for goodness sake. Aerially, he's very good aerially. Position-wise, he's very good position-wise. You can ask him to do more than his job and he'll do it well. That's a baller. Do you know what I mean? Now, the price tag, 70 million euros, I think it's a fair price tag. Honestly, he's 23 years old?
I do as well, yeah.
23 years old with talent like that. This is the market. I know 65 million pounds, 70 million euros, about 65 million pounds. That's a lot of money. But with the talent and the potential that you're looking at, because listen, if we play our cards right with him, Pochettino develops into what we believe he can turn out to be. We've got a striker there potentially for the next decade. And 65 million pounds after 10 years, if we're winning trophies as well, it's going to look like peanuts.
Well, mate, we've just paid that for Havertz.
There you go.
So, Andre is saying that Alfredo Padula. I don't do names, man. I don't do ITKs. No idea if this guy's any good, but he's in saying that Chelsea have inquired about Vlahovic and Juventus want 65, to 70 million. That's a good signing for me. I'll be amazed, and I'll tell you another club I'm amazed if don't go in for him or should go in for him is Manchester United, because if he was to come to the Premier League of Chelsea or Manchester United, I think he would kill it. I agree with your comments on Poch. I think that's a really good comparison, actually. Not saying that he's the new Harry Kane. I'm just saying that he's definitely got the attributes of Harry Kane. You're absolutely spot on, and I do think that is fair. I've got to bring it up, man, because another player that you have been linked with, only linked, is Balogun from Arsenal. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on this one. There's a lot of Arsenal fans very indecisive. Maybe if we get 35 million plus, we should sell him, loan him, but he doesn't want to loan. He wants first team football. If Arsenal can't provide him that, he's going to have to leave. Some people want him to stay at Arsenal and be ahead of Eddie. Personally, I would rather, in my brutally honest opinion, I'd like to be ruthless and try and get some money for both Balogun and Eddie and try and go for a Vlahovic type myself. That's what I'd be doing. But I don't know that that's going to be the case. I think Arteta wants to keep hold of Eddie and Nketiah and sell on Balogun. Now, he fits the young implementation of player for Chelsea, but he scored 30 goals over in France. Lacazette scored more than him, the guy that we binned off the season before. Are you liking these links, or do you think this is just a no-go for Chelsea?
Let me start from an Arsenal perspective. I think you'd be ridiculous. I think you'd be stupid if you even sold him anywhere. Honestly speaking, I rate Balogun as a very. He's got a very high ceiling. He's got a very, very high ceiling. Absolutely. Okay. Listen, bro, forget about calling League One a farmers league. That's a myth. And from the first time I ever came on camera, I've always said I never like to label League One as a farmers league. It's a myth, because you get top quality players that come from that league, come to the Premier League and absolutely smash it to bits as well. So we got to put respect on that league. So for him to go there and score the 30 goals that he scored at his age in his debut season is it his debut season in League One? Did he have a league?
Yes. He went to Middlesbrough and he didn't do much, and then he went first season in France, full season, and he absolutely killed it.
Right.
But yeah.
Now I've been fortunate to see the kind of goals that he has scored as well. Mm-hmm. He's got every kind of goal that you can really imagine. Naturally, that boy is a killer, stone cold, in my opinion. Now, in terms of Chelsea signing this player, the only reason why I wouldn't pull the trigger on that is because we're already taking too many gambles elsewhere. And what I mean by that is, once again, it's this continual investment in youth. All of these signings are a gamble, and to put them in the first team is a gamble. I don't want to take any more gambles. And on top of that, what's the plan with him? Because we've just signed this Jackson guy. Now we're signing Balogun, who's got the ability, but he's not an established striker. He's not won nothing. He's not played at the top level. So what's the plan there? That would be my question to Chelsea. When you're looking at a Dusan type of profile now, it makes more sense. Yes, he ain't won a Champions League and these things there, but he's played Champions League football. We've seen quality and we've seen his skill set, and it's undeniable that he could play for a top club. So that for me is less of a risk than signing a Balogun. But I don't know what the price tag is. What would you be asking for this player?
Well, I wouldn't be selling him to Chelsea. That's my honest opinion. If we're going to sell him, he's got to go abroad, or he's got to go to a team that have never been seen as our rivals. But I think we've slapped a silly price of 50 million on him. He's not going to go for that much. But in this market, God knows. But I think 35 million is probably what we're going to realistically expect to be getting. I like the player, Goonie. I do. I'm with you in terms of his quality and how good he is. I just feel for where we are right now, we need better. And I know that we can't say that we haven't seen him in an Arsenal shirt, etc. Eddie Nketiah, he ain't the guy, right? Jesus is the guy. In my opinion, if we're a massive club, we go and do what Man City did, and that's replace Jesus with somebody better, and then you've got both of them. I don't think Arteta wants to upset that cart. I think he wants to keep Jesus as number 9, and then I believe he believes in Eddie and also Trossard. Does Balogun fit into that mix? I'm not so sure. We're going to find that one out. I'd be gutted if he goes to Chelsea and absolutely kills it, because there's obviously a chance that he could do that. But for me, yeah, 35, 40 million tops, I think that we could expect to get. I don't know if Chelsea are going to be happy to pay that for him.
Listen, if we already had Vlahovic, if we didn't sign Jackson, then yeah, I'd do it. But right now we're looking at Vlahovic. We've already got Jackson. We've already got Broya, and we've just loaned out Datro Fofana. That's 4 strikers already that I've mentioned. So there needs the striker that comes in for me should be a non-negotiable, proven quality striker at bare minimum. Or if they've not proved themselves at the highest level, at least their talent is undeniable that they should be playing at the highest level. That's the bare minimum for me.
Yeah, man. And Chelsea, for me, I don't know, like Jackson, Balogun, these sort of names coming in, it's fine. And they've got Broya, but Vlahovic will be the one that everybody goes, okay, there we go. Fair enough. Likewise with Chelsea, Caicedo, that's the sort of signing people go, that's decent, man. Him and Enzo, that's looking good. And then the attacking midfielder or attacking 8, which I still think Chelsea need now after getting rid of Mount and Havertz, that could come in and be one that kills. So I think, yeah, that's what we're going to be looking at. Players like Balogun and obviously the youngsters you've brought in, nobody looks at that, do they, right now? In a few years' time, they might. Like Madueke, I think he's a half decent talent from what I've seen, but it doesn't make you go, wow. But some of the other players that you've been linked with are like that. You need to bring in my opinion, now this season under Poch, the ones that you're ready now and go, boom, right, Chelsea. He's a player that's coming straight in and is going to do the business. Caicedo, Enzo, a centre forward like Vlahovic would do that. You at centre backs, you know what you're doing now. It looks like you've got your centre back pairing for either Fofana and Badiashile, or obviously you've got Thiago Silva still. You've got good fullbacks. A goalkeeper's needed, in my opinion, at Chelsea. But these are the sort of players that need to come in, man.
You've just mentioned our spine. And based on the principle that you've just mentioned our spine, every single one of those players in those positions, goalkeeper, we need one. We need one that is undeniably top quality. Centre backs, I believe we've got a couple in there. I believe out of the current crop of centre backs, we've got Levi Colwell's the best of the lot, 100%. Obviously, outside Thiago Silva, he's been there, he's done it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to compare the two opposite ends of the spectrum. Do you know what I mean? But everybody else, that guy for me is the best. Midfield, we need that Caicedo signing. Do you know what I mean? We've got Enzo, that's cool. Striker, Vlahovic, bare minimum. Or for me, although I don't see us going back to that club again, Gonzalo Ramos over at Benfica. I would love him at Chelsea.
Quality.
Absolutely love him at Chelsea. But the issue is there, Rui Costa. And on top of that, the Enzo tax, obviously, of how we get transfer. So it's never going to work, is it?
No, fair play, man. What about this guy in the chat? Ridwana says, Levi Colwell had a great season. What's going on with this guy, man?
Well, look, for me, I think with the Levi Colwell situation, it's very much being blown out of proportion because a lot of it is just reactionary stuff from media. Look, I saw a video the other day. Colwell was recording an Instagram post or something like that. Madueke comes in and he says, I'm going to make sure that he comes back to the club. And Levi Colwell was sort of like, oh, why did you do that sort of thing, the reaction. And people are taking that like you don't want to come to Chelsea. Well, let's look at the facts of things. He's not supposed to do that. So what he done was actually quite professional. And I guarantee he probably went to Madueke after that. It's like, bro, I know obviously it's a content thing, but don't be mentioning them things there again. Probably did. That's what it looked like to me. Do you know what I mean? And if that's how we dealt with it, that's how we're supposed to deal with things. And to me, that's an encouraging sign of a professional, someone who takes his game seriously. Do you know what I mean? Who takes his career seriously. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Chelsea are in control of this situation because all this guy is asking for is the chance that he deserves in the first team so he can get a selection in the Euros. And there's completely nothing wrong with that. Does he have the ability to step into the first team and make an impact? Of course he does. Does Pochettino know that? Of course he does. The only thing standing in his way is, does he want to compete with Badiashile for that position, who, by the way, is injured? He's going to be out for a bit.
Great
So
point.
you're now at the advantage where if you step into the team from the beginning of the season, you might have forced Badiashile out with the performances. You might have become that important to Chelsea Football Club. There's no way Badiashile can start over you. And I believe you've got the ability to do that. This guy's ceiling, honestly, I thought after Reece James, we weren't going to see another talent of that level for a while. He is. He definitely is.
Yeah,
This boy stays fit. We have an elite centre back on our hands. 100.
Yeah, I'm with you. I rate him a lot, man, and I think he'll be a top talent for you, man. I've got to say. You mentioned Poch, man. Let's bring this question in now. This came in earlier. Tony says, the question is, are these Pochettino signings? Now, there was this debate, wasn't there, the season just gone? Who's buying these players? Is it Potter? Is it Bowley? Is it somebody else? How much of a say is Pochettino having on what you do next? Is it heavily involved, do you think?
Well, when any club that has a recruitment structure, there's only so much you can contribute. But from what we've been seeing in the media, well, I can point to the Caicedo situation. Anytime you hear Caicedo deal is being done, what does it say afterwards? Pochettino wants the player. He wants it done. Do you know what I mean? So clearly they're on terms. You see what I'm saying? So that's the case with Caicedo. And the thing is because we focus so much on Caicedo, right, outside of the youngsters, until we see the other targets, I cannot answer you. But I suspect that Pochettino does have an involvement in the recruitment structure, 100%. Because obviously, if you're hiring a man like Pochettino, you have to understand you're hiring a philosophy as well. And nobody knows the philosophy better than a philosopher. So you have to take in his ideas. It's a fact, though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, facts, man.
You got to take it. You got to take in his ideas to some degree. But the recruitment team are there, right? So people understand. So there is life after that manager. Their job is to build a machine that can basically continue when managers leave. So let's say Poch, leaves after 2 or 3 seasons. The next manager doesn't have to worry about having to get players here, there, and everywhere for this. Maybe 1 or 2 positions because we've already got a recruitment structure. We've already got a set way of how we're going to play football. The recruitment team, I believe, a lot of their job is really to try and maintain that. Obviously, a successful winning formula is key to that as well. But you've got to sort of maintain that kind of structure. That's what longevity is. You can't just delegate each team to each manager that you sign. It's very expensive and unrealistic now. Because what if the next manager you hire wants 90% of your team gone and you've just signed these players? What then? You know what I mean? It makes the job difficult. So that's the job of the recruitment team there. So we'll see, man. We'll see how much involvement he's really got.
Yeah, man. Facts. Listen, I do think there's an expectation that Chelsea should win the league every year, right? That's what it should be. Chelsea are like this club that in the last 20 years have won the most. But obviously you have to be realistic. At the moment, Chelsea ain't winning the league. I look at the side and I think there's a spine that we've talked about, there's midfield, but there should be an expectation to try and go for a cup, and a minimum expectation is Champions League, particularly when we hear that there's probably going to be 5 positions now that can qualify you for Champions League if we get this at the end of the season, which, let's be real, I believe England are going to get another place from what we hear. But I wanted to take you back to this question which you mentioned earlier and just kind of close on Arsenal, because there's a lot of rumours about Arsenal outgoings. We know Rice and Timber is going to get announced. I can't believe we haven't announced either of them yet. This is just typical Arsenal, just taking their time, taking way too long. Everyone knows it's like the worst kept secret that these two are going to sign eventually. We're either in advanced talks, everything's imminent. They're going to be announced today. The medical's going to be passed. It's like just to say we've signed them, man. Like what is going on? Honestly, it takes absolutely forever for this club to do anything. But listen, there's rumours that Xhaka going, Party could be going, Balogun could be going. There's still up in the air about Kieran Tierney's future, although I believe Arteta wants him to stay. And then we've got the crap to sell. The Runnerson, Cedrics, Tavares, Lokongas, Pepe is probably going to be released from what I hear in terms of mutual termination of his contract. All these, man. So let's talk about incomings once we get rid of those outgoings, because there's no shocks there for me. Maybe Party is the only one I wouldn't want to sell. Balogun, likewise, if he goes Chelsea. But other than that, I think most of the others have to go. But this Tchouaméni deal rumor will not go away. And it's not just Arsenal. There's just rumors that he might be one player that Real Madrid would potentially look at. Now, you said right at the top of the show, he ain't going and he ain't leaving Madrid. And I've been saying that on these streams when we've been linked with him. I do this every night on here, as you know, and literally I've been saying I know we're linked with him. I'd just be very, very surprised if he left Real Madrid. 23-year-old French international. They've got Modric and Cruz. They've got Camavinga. They've got Valverde. They've got, obviously, Jude Bellingham they've signed. And obviously now they've got Tchouaméni. I don't see him going at all. But if he was to be leaving Real Madrid, would he look towards Arsenal, do you think, Goonie?
First, I've got to give a shout out. Big up Solange, one of the crew members, obviously, at where I work as well. She's tuned in, obviously. Big up yourself. Appreciate that. First, again, Dan, I've got to deal with the realism of things.
Go on, man.
Carlo Ancelotti loves Tchouaméni. And if that manager loves that player, he's not going anywhere. But if he was to leave, I think now's Arsenal's best chance of attracting a player like that. Obviously, because of your league finish, the prospect of your team, you've got an exciting manager and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So I don't think he'd say no, but you're going to have stiff competition, because if he's definitively available, put it this way, Arsenal would not be the only team that would be in for this player. Bayern Munich would be in for him. PSG would be in for him. Man City would be in for him. United would be in for him. Chelsea would be in for him. The best teams in the world would be in for Tchouaméni. He's 23 years old? Still young, again. And in a position that is considered, I consider this a very mature position, that number 6 role. And he plays it so maturely, and he's got years to grow. And on top of that, if you're Real Madrid and you look at this midfield that you have now, Jude Bellingham, Camavinga, and Tchouaméni, show me which youngsters in world football are better than these 3 players.
And I think Valverde's only 24, 25, ain't he? He ain't old.
So why would you want to sell this guy? Because the only way it makes sense for me that Real Madrid sell Tchouaméni is if that there's a better version out elsewhere and they replace him with that. But I don't see one. At that age group, I don't really see one.
Listen, it's going to be interesting for me, because I do think something will happen at Real Madrid, because they've got so many in that position. They're stacked. But I don't know who's going to go out, because Modric and Cruz ain't going to go anywhere. They've got like a year left and then they're done, right? You've got Camavinga, we've just mentioned, who's a versatile player who was playing at left back a lot for them. So they're not going to look to get rid of him, in my opinion, because he's done that. Valverde's been superb for them. Bellingham's just signed. That's why people are saying it will be Tchouaméni. Now, I just don't see that, because that for me is who else is they got to then come in and replace that role that ain't going to be potentially breaking down in a 37-year-old or 35. I think it would be a poor move for Real Madrid. I really do. But if Partey's going, Arsenal needs somebody of that ilk to come in. We can't be going in my opinion, for a defensive midfielder like Zubimendi from Sociedad to replace Partey. It just can't happen for me. I would argue at the moment, if Partey and Xhaka leave, Goonie, Arsenal are weaker in midfield, in my opinion, even with Declan Rice. Because if you're going to play Declan Rice, Havertz and Ødegaard instead of Xhaka, Partey and Ødegaard, I think it's fair to say that's weaker, Goonie. What are you saying about that?
I have to agree with you. Losing Thomas Partey, I think, would hurt you massively, because I can see scenarios in the Premier League where you'd benefit from actually having both Rice and Thomas Partey on the pitch at the same time. And I think it makes you that bit stronger. So yeah, you would have to replace with a top quality player. But here's the thing. Let me ask you that. If Party went and G replaced him with Palinia,
Mm.
what would you think? How would you feel about that?
Well, listen, I'm kind of resigned to the fact that Party's leaving. Right, I am. I'm resigned to the fact he's going. I would be looking to get in a 6 and have Rice potentially playing in the 8 with Odegaard. That would be what I would like to see as a first team. Yeah, Rice can play in both, in my opinion. And I do think that 8 role he could do. Right, Palhinha is a fucking good player, man. He's a very good player, Palhinha. He's not Thomas Partey level. He's not Chouameni. He's not De Jong. He's not that level because obviously he's at Fulham and he's had his season. I think we could do a lot worse. Lavia is another option. I think you've mentioned that he could be going to Liverpool. I'm still seeing it as a bit of a downgrade, man. I can't lie. Party is. People have been sleeping on Party, by the way, because Arsenal fans were saying he was as good as Casemiro and Rodri last season. Then he dipped off towards the back end of the season, and fair play, he really did. Now, all of a sudden, Arsenal fans, the same ones saying he was as good as Rodri and Casemiro, are like, let's get rid of this guy. I don't get that, Goonie.
That's and the message that I would send to those Arsenal fans is that's not how you win titles. You don't compete for a title with an 11. You compete with the squad. And which squad are you looking to compete with? Manchester City. Now look at Manchester City's bench. Most of those players, if they were sold, number one, they'd be getting close to 100 million. Not saying they'll get 100 million for all of them, but they'll be getting around that figure for several of them. And each one of those would walk into the majority of title challenging teams. This is the depth and the level that you're dealing with. So to sell Thomas Partey, right, at this point, if he was at Chelsea, I certainly wouldn't sell him. I wouldn't sell that quality. If I had that quality, I wouldn't sell him. If I had someone better than him ahead of him, cool, but I'd still keep him because that's strength in numbers. That's depth off the bench. It's honestly it's a situation where if you bring off I don't know, Luka Modric, and then you bring on Camavinga. You know what I mean? I'm not saying obviously it's the same quality, but it's the same principle. Do you know what I mean? That's how you sustain longevity. That's how you sustain title runs when
Facts,
you don't
bro.
have much of a drop off from your first team.
It's so much. It's that, mate. What you've said there is basically how I was trying to answer that question you posed to me, because I would be gutted to see. I don't mind Granit Xhaka going. Right, a lot of people are crying about it. I've never liked the player. He's had 7 years at Arsenal. He's had 1 year and another half a year where he was all right. He's been fantastic this year, but we can replace him. Thomas Partey is very hard to replace unless you go and buy Rodri, Casemiro, De Jong, Chouameni, somebody of that level. And I'm not so sure that Arsenal are going to do that, bro, because we're being linked with the likes of Lavia. The only one I would take is Caicedo. If we get Rice and Caicedo, I'll be okay with Xhaka and Partey going, because I do think that Caicedo can do it.
Let me tell you something about Lavia. That boy's going to be a world-class defensive midfielder.
Yeah, I think he's class, man.
He will be. Yeah. And this is why I really want him at Chelsea. He has to come to the club. I'd be gutted if he went to Liverpool, honestly. For me, it's Caicedo and Lavia.
And this is the thing. So you're looking, this is what I'm talking about. What you've said there is what I've been saying from day dot on this window. For me, it's Rice and Caicedo we need. And everyone else is saying, well, what about this? What about that? And I hate that, because 1 minute they're saying the squad's not good enough. And the next minute they're saying, what about him? I had someone the other day saying, if we get another right wing, what happens to Fabio Vieira? I couldn't give a damn. Like, I'm sorry, bro. I couldn't give a damn what happens to Fabio Vieira, if I'm honest with you. If it wins me a league and it upgrades on the team, I don't care. And unfortunately, I can't. I don't want to start looking at ages of Arsenal fans, because they're all sorts of ages. But I do question whether they saw us in the invincible season, because I wasn't crying because Ray Parlour wasn't getting a game. I wasn't crying because Kanu wasn't getting on.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't. Do you know what I'm saying? Gilberto Silva and Edu were fighting for places. Reyes, Van Persie and Fabregas were coming through at that time. We had Gal Clichy knocking on the door if Ashley Cole got a knock. Do you know what I'm saying? I never sat there and gone, oh, what the hell's going to happen to Martin Keown this weekend? He might not get a game. Like, come on, man, grow up. We're supposed to be going for a title, aren't we not? Like, who cares if Smith Rowe might not get another couple of games this season because we bought in another wicked attacking midfielder or another wicked winger. Who cares if Bukayo Saka doesn't play 76 consecutive games in a row, whatever the hell it is now? Like, this is what we're supposed to be. We've been so used to playing the same players all the time and having a good 11 and a shit 11. We now need a quality 20 to 25 man squad. It's just facts for me.
Yeah, especially in the Premier League, because remember, there's a very thin line between success and failure now in the Prem. Do you know what I mean? You can be getting top four consistently, and then one season you can be not playing European football. In our case, you felt it before. Manchester United have felt it before. There's no guarantees in the Premier League, and the only way that you guarantee success is if you keep improving. Title winning teams keep improving. That was one of Sir Alex Ferguson's thing. He said it in his book. He was like, what I did was, it's just that I never rested on my laurels. I always improved where I could. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't enough for these guys to be having your Ronaldos, Rooney's, and all these guys. They had to have more coming off the bench as well. That's how you sustain challenging on all fronts, and that's what real winners do. So you can't be turning your nose up at these situations. You can't be thinking, oh, what about this player? What about that player? Listen, and it also boils down to the principle. If you're worried about a first team player who you think is top quality, being worried about another player coming in and taking their place, they're in the wrong club. They've got the wrong mentality. They shouldn't be worried about them. They should be worried about their own quality and their own football. Because naturally, if you're that good, you're still going to keep them out of the team. It's not going to make a difference. But the benefit is, if you get injured, you know the man that's coming in to replace you to try and get that job done, get that title over the line, he's also a quality player.
Facts, bro. And listen, you're right about most of that. And for me, it brings me back to memories of hybrid days when we were actually competing at the very top, man. And I so want it back. Let me close by asking you this one question about Arsenal, Goonie, because this is a question that's very, very difficult to answer with the transfer window still being open and there being so much business left to be done. Where do you see Arsenal going this coming season? Because there's a lot of people that have this mindset that Arsenal are going to drop off completely. Champions League's going to kill them, and they're not going to have the squad depth, and they'll be top four just about, and they'll win probably either nothing or scrape a trophy. There's other Arsenal fans that think, nah, we're all going out. We're going big. We've got the rice. We're going to not stop there. We're going to keep going, and we're going to get as close to that title and finally win something. Where's your head at with this one, bro?
Well, again, it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I don't really want to give you a definitive. I don't want to give you a definitive one until I've seen what you've done in the window. Once the window's closed, I'll be able to give you a better answer. But my expectation as an Arsenal, if I was an Arsenal fan, would be this: build on what we've already got and do not drop down in quality in terms of what you're bringing in. 100%. Because you need to go again. You need to pick up and go again. The fact of the matter is, as well as you did, you didn't come away with any silverware last season. And that in itself is a failure for the quality that you've been watching the majority of the season. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to go out and do that. So in terms of those replacements, it goes back to what we was just talking about. Just make sure that you replace wherever you're selling with top quality. Now, my concern as your team stands right now is your left side of that pitch. Is if Tierney's going to be leaving the club and Zinchenko's your option. If you're going to use Kai Havertz in that number 8 position on that left side, that would be a bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, I've said this.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I've said this.
I'd be looking to, first of all, my first choice would be get Tierney down to a new deal and make him the first choice left back. I think he's a better left back than what Zinchenko is. Zinchenko has decent qualities going forward, but in terms of the full package, Tierney's got that bit more. And I'll be starting him.
I've always said this, man.
And
it's not a popular opinion though with Gooners. They don't like that. They like Zinchenko because he's an inverted player and he's great on the ball. There's a lot of that I agree with, but defensively, this guy at times is not good.
Yeah, but this is the problem. Is like you're saying that now when you're not playing in the Champions League, when you're playing against Real Madrid, and then on that right wing is either Rodrigo or Vinicius. Yeah, and you're getting exposed on that side. That's gonna come back to bite you. You're gonna wish you had a Kieran Tierney or someone there. You know what I mean? You can't let go of Tierney for me.
No, I listen, facts, mate. I probably my favorite player after Saka for me, Kieran Tierney. It's definitely been my favourite player the last few years before Saka had properly come onto the scene. And remember, we signed him under Emery. I loved the kid straight away. And for me, I do think he's a better defender. I do think that if we had a first choice left back like him, we would have not conceded some of the goals we had last season. I
Mhm.
don't sit there and blame Zinchenko as a poor player, but I do think that we are getting very, very hyped up by the passion that he shows and also the inverted role that he has and the ability he has on the ball. That's all fantastic. Trust me. I'm a big, big fan of him and I think he had a good season. But defensively, there's a problem. Then you move in front of that. Gabriel and Granit Xhaka last season had really good season. Both of them were excellent. Absolutely excellent. Gabriel, he had to be excellent at times because Zinchenko. Granit Xhaka had to be excellent because of Zinchenko. If we're now relying on Kai Havertz, who, by the way, I don't see any defensive-minded play from him whatsoever, then we're gonna have a problem, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? Martinelli, I'm gonna allow it because I love the kid. I think he's sensational. I do think he's gonna be an unreal talent, and I like the way no one's talking about a Martinelli because he can just keep
Mm.
doing his thing. Do you know what I mean? If it's all about Saka and Erdegaard, keep it that way, man. Because this kid is sick, bro. Absolutely sick. I love Martinelli. I don't know your thoughts on Martinelli, but I think he's
I rate him. I like him. I like him
yeah,
very much.
yeah.
I love those direct type of wingers, man. And he also
Mm.
gets goals as well. I like him. Good player, man.
Yeah,
Very good
I
player.
like him. I like him. But you're absolutely bang on. For me, it's all about how we finish this window. And people will sit there and say, "Oh, um, this is a 9 out or a 10 out of 10 window like we've had the last few." No, we need a 10 out of 10 window now, not a 7 or 8 out of 10, because that's gonna get us back in the Champions League, right? We're going against one of the best sides I've ever seen. Yeah, we're not coming against Wigan Athletic. This is a top side we're coming against. We need a 9 or 10 out of 10 window right now this summer, and then I can start talking about us winning trophies because at the moment everyone else is going to improve, bro. You're going to improve. Liverpool are going to be back. Man United are definitely going to be signing players. Don't sleep on Newcastle. People are. They're going to go and go again. So, for me, I can understand where people's concerns are in terms of Arsenal right now. Prove to me and everybody else, wow, Arsenal have spent 350 million. They're serious, man. They're going for the title. That's what I want to be saying when that window shuts. And at the moment, great free signings coming in, even though two still haven't signed. But we need another three at least, maybe even four for me to be considered as well. They've got the right strength in depth. Because last season, Goonie, people were saying to me, that's been a 9 out of 10 window. And then what? In April, Rob Holding's coming back in the side. Hang on a minute. I thought we had a 9 out of 10 window. What's going on? Like Eddie and Ketty is coming on still. Fabio Vieira's in the side. I'm like, 9 out of 10 window. I gave it a 6.5 because we signed Jesus. And
Mm.
everyone was calling me toxic. It's out of order. It's out of order. What do you mean it's out of order? Got Rob Holding back in the side, bro. Jorginho and El Neni. You know what I'm saying? I can't be seeing that this season, bro. It's got to be you going for the title. For me, he has to win a trophy, Goonie. Otherwise, he's under pressure for me, man. Do you think that's fair?
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
You
it's got
should
to be
be
done.
improving. You should be improving every season anyway by nature. That's how things should be if you're ambitious. You should be improving every season. And you've got to a point where you've got no excuse but to kick on now. Because if
Mm,
it's now or never, honestly.
mm. It is, man. It really is. Listen, we're going to wrap it up there, man. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you for this hour, man. It's gone so quick. It's mad.
Yeah,
But
man.
always a pleasure, man. Make sure you shout out your stuff, man. Plug your channel and let's get people over to you, man. How can they follow you?
Man Knows Football is the channel. I've been a bit quiet on there recently, but I will be back, people. I'll be back very soon, man. I'm just enjoying this little break that I'm taking, but I'll be back. And obviously, I'll be back on Dan's channel as well. And yeah, big up yourselves, man. Everybody that's in the comments as well. Big up the comment section. Whether you agree with us or not, big up yourself. Thanks for being here. Obviously, my guy Lee Gunner in the chat as well. Big up to you always as well. And Dan, thank you very much for having me on your platform, bro. It's always good to be here.
Mate, you're always welcome, man. And big up Lee Gunner, the rest of the people in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here. Make sure you smash a like on this and make sure you hit subscribe. So close to that 11K, man. It's mad. So thank you so much for all of your support. I'm going to be back like I am every day talking all things transfers, and I'll have Goonie and the lads with me, I'm sure. So we will see you next time. Take it easy. Smash a like on your way out and up the Arsenal. Take care, people.